Hey, welcome back. I haven't done a book episode in a while, so I thought I'd share with you 6 of my favourite spiritual books for your spiritual awakening. Watching till the end, I'm going to share with you one special book that helped me deal with my father's passing. Conversations with God. First spiritual book I read. I was about 21. Now at the time I was religious but not spiritual.
I'm not bashing religion, people. Stop it before you even start.
This is my experience. So I used to practice, but I was incredibly fearful, and I felt like if I didn't do the things I was supposed to do, it wasn't a great feeling. Religion was a fear-based practice for me, which is sort of the absolute opposite of spirituality. But let me read you this. So we've created an entire thought system on human experience rather than spiritual truths. You then create an entire reality, fear-based reality, rooted in the idea of a fearful and vengeful entity that you worship. You have been told that to be less is to lose. So my biggest takeaway really was I realized that the entity I was worshipping was based on fear. Isn't judgmental, doesn't see the worst in me. I'm not my worst sins. So after reading this book, it's like this force field around me cracked and splintered open. And it was the first time I felt deep, profound feeling that everything was going to be okay and that I'm not alone. And thus my journey towards spirituality begun. Ever so grateful for Mr. Walsh for writing this. This will hold a special place in my heart. So these 2 are next on the list. I know they're 2 books they really need to be read as a package. Power of Now was a game changer. It helped me realize I could access this spiritual realm right now. Does what it says on the cover. A New Earth. Now this helps me put it into practice. Whiskey's just arrived. Whiskey, no, please, 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 please. Shush, 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 please. Oh shit, what are you doing? This isn't part of the 6 books lineup, but I've also got Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle. They're kind of like cue cards, whispers of the now. Let me see if I can do my best Eckhart Tolle impression. A moment of danger can bring about temporary cessation of the stream of thinking, and thus give you a taste of what it means to be present. When something dangerous happens, you are suddenly alert. Your senses are heightened, temporarily bring a stop to those thoughts. I think that's why people enjoy extreme roller coasters, bungee jumping, parachuting, all these extremely dangerous sports. It brings this heightened sense of awareness. So the next book is... I have a retro Kindle. This will soon belong in a museum. What have they done? I'm not an expert, but that's an ugly front cover for a book. She deserves better than that. So the book is called Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. The book is Marianne Williamson's interpretation and meditation on what she learned from A Course in Miracles. When you begin to cultivate spirituality, begin this journey of spirituality, when you walk on this path, what I learned from this book, common sneaky way ego tries to worm its way back into you is by being spiritual. It uses your spirituality. Anyway, so while I was reading this book, one sentence popped for me. I can't find the sentence, annoyingly, but...
Oh my goodness.
I read that sentence and it was like, aha! Busted! You think you're being spiritual, but I am. My ego had re-emerged as a spiritual person. How do I know this? Because of how I was feeling. When I first discovered the spiritual realm, felt this lightness. Then it started turning into a drive, a force, as David Hawkins talks about it in his book, Power versus Force. Power is more an internal side, whereas force is very much an external thing. And how this manifested was, I started feeling superior. Sit around and look at everybody thinking, oh my God, how unconscious these people are. Look at me, all of my elevated chi, looking down on thee. I was always trying to catch people out to try and be right. If you are truly spiritual, you don't see the wrong in others. You're not judging. The most useful thing I can do for myself now when I'm trying to walk this path is to just be aware whenever the ego has stepped in and trying to take over. It's enough to help me going, get out! The next book on the list, 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I'll read a quick passage from this book, shall I? The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Your word is the power that you have to create. The word is the most powerful tool you have as a human. It's a tool of magic. Your word can create the most beautiful dream, or your word can destroy everything around you. Biggest takeaway for me was to be impeccable with my word. Not just with others, but with myself. I told myself things like, I can't write, I can't speak in public, I will amount to nothing. These are the opposite of being impeccable with your word. I believed them. It made me feel worthless and useless. So I didn't have any ambition in life. Your actions are guided by your thoughts. So now I check myself, and be impeccable with your word. Next up, Tuesdays with Maury. Read a quick bit from this book. You don't need the latest sports car. You don't need the biggest house. You don't get satisfaction from those things. You know what really gives you satisfaction? Offering others what you have to give. I don't mean money. I mean your time, your concern, your storytelling. Our deeply flawed culture thrives on making us feel bad and worthless so that we constantly want to buy things and consume in order to feel better. It's all BS. You have to be strong to say no to all of that. Be determined to live according to your values, to live a meaningful life. This is a beauty. The next book, the Tibetan Book of the Living and the Dying. This was the book I read to help me prepare for my father's passing, so I wouldn't plunge into a deep, dark abyss. The biggest lesson for me was the best thing we can do for the dying is to support them and not go against it. Let me just read a passage and then I'll share a quick story. For such a person to be able to let go and die peacefully, he or she needs to hear 2 explicit verbal assurances from loved ones. Give the person permission to die, and second, they must reassure the person they will be all right after he or she is gone. When I arrived at the hospital to see my dad, and the first thing he said to me was, I go? That was his code for saying, shall I die now? And immediately my eyes reddened and you could see I was about to just burst into tears. He looked away, disappointment and a bit of anger. And I remembered what I learned from the book. To support them, don't go against them. I swallowed back the tears, I took a breath, got present, quietened my ego, and I said, Baba, you go. We're fine. You've done everything. We will be fine. I managed to say it without tears because I remembered I'm there for him. Really helped me. I highly recommend this book because the most certain thing in life is death. Preparing ourselves for it can help us help our loved ones, but also help ourselves. I read these books over 10 years ago. Loads of new spiritual books have popped up. Some will resonate with you, others won't. Doesn't mean they don't work. It just means that either you're not ready to receive them or you need to find words that you do connect with. I read Celestine Prophecy. It was a big deal at the time. I wanted to believe in all the hype.
Be all enlightened and whoa.
None of it made sense to me. The beauty I find in reading spirituality books is it's not like a self-help book where you go and do something. It's about getting somewhere and achieving something externally. Spirituality is a state of being. It's how you feel right now. It's a state to seek and nurture on a regular basis. So out of these spiritual books, which one resonated with you the most? Tell me in the comments below.